This program is the first step in creating cascading lists or cascading combo boxes based on recursively navigating a directory tree. And the first step is to find all the leaves of the directory tree. And basically a leaf is the last directory with no directories in it. And the algorithm for doing this is very similar to the algorithm we used in video 84, which recursively goes through directories and adds all the links of files in those directories to get a total length of some group of directories under the same root. And the essential algorithm we call from the form load routine is called recursive leaves, and it specifies the root directory, which in this case is MML audio book archive. And when we go into the recursive leaf file, basically we get a directory listing of the root, and then we get a array of directory info of all the directories specified in the root. And then we go into a if statement which allows us to stop recursing. It basically says if the array of directory info length is 0, which means there are no directories in the directory we're looking at, then we add this directory path as a leaf. In other words, a directory at the end of the tree with no directories under it. However, if the length is greater than 0, we go into a for each loop and recursively call ourselves with each directory name, the full name, fully qualified with the disk name and all the parent directories. So we recursively call ourselves for each of these directories. Essentially, the algorithm is described in this diagram. Of course, it's a lot more complex because we have more levels, but this is the root directory here, and then these are all the directories under this directory. And since there are 3 directories, we go into this loop. We don't do the no directories part that stops recursion. And when we recursively call ourselves with the next level directory, if there's a directory within that, the next incarnation that we call ourselves with also goes into this loop. And in this case there's only one directory, so it only calls itself once. And we go on to this directory, so this will become a leaf, and this will become a leaf, and this will become a leaf, because there's no directories under them. So if we compile and run this program, it prints out to a multi-line text box, and you'll notice the first directory under the audiobook archive is actually a letter representing a letter of the alphabet. So we have A, which is all the A authors, and then we have author Frank W. Abigail, and under that we have a book that he wrote, which is Catch Me If You Can. And we do this going through all the A's and all the B's and so on. So it's a case of we're going to have multiple authors under the letter, and we're going to possibly have multiple books under the author. For instance, from Ray Bradbury we have From Dust Returned, we have One More for the Road, and we have the Toynbee Connector. So there's 3 books by this author. So the books end up being the leaves, and the authors are the next higher level from the leaves. And it's actually these 2 levels that we want to look at using the stack structure, that generic collection that we looked at in the previous video. So we'll be using stack in order to create 2 cascading lists of authors and books in the next video. And you notice in this video we fill the leaves into a structure called leaves, and this is actually a 3rd generic collection type, which is lists. with a specified type of string, and then to print out we basically just do a for each loop that has a string of leaf, a range variable that goes through all the leaves that we've inserted in our recursive algorithm and just appends them to the text box. So it's another case of a few lines of code can handle huge amounts of data. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.